once, long time ago, and I thought, how to shut people up. I didn't very well understand. Thank you for the reception this evening, but we know what it's for. Could you give them this huge hand, please? Say to celebrate 2,000 performances in this theatre. There will be a lot to say and I'll keep it brief. The difficulty is the story itself, because we all know what we've sat through, and quite a lot of it was not comfortable. Quite a lot of it was very sad, and so it should be. Approximately, we don't know exactly, 10 million soldiers died in that Great War, as they called it, the war to end all wars, from 1914 to 1918. We think that approximately the same number of horses were killed as well on all sides. We all know sitting here what a war it was. We all have our views as to whether or not it should have been fought, but what we do know is that the suffering was terrible. It seems to have become the war that has captured not only the imaginations of people just after that war, but ever since. And of course, we're now 100 years on this year. And so this play becomes more relevant than it's ever been, I think, really. It always was a great anthem of peace, this play. I think maybe the greatest anthem of peace there's ever been on a stage. But I think the difficulty is this, that we all want peace. We all yearn for peace, which is why when that horse screams on the wire, we know it's the scream of all of us when we yearn for it. Great difficulty is how to achieve that, and the struggle for that seems to go on. I want to take you back to, very briefly, to the story that began it, which was, of course, the story of the war, and then many, many years later, my meeting an old soldier in my village who told me how it was to be with horses in the First World War. He it was, Uncle Wilf Ellis. His widow is the last surviving widow from the First World War, which is rather remarkable in the whole country, and she lives in my little village. It's a very distinguished village, my little village. Anyway, Dorothy Ellis would, I think, want me to read this piece because it is the beginning of the book. This is a book written by a horse, which is remarkable. There are not very many, but I won't read you that bit. That's Joey's story. This, in a way, is my story and why it was written. And I think it's why the power of this play is so huge every night they play. And it's in the last few words of what I'm going to read to you. The book begins with an author's note. In the old school they now use for the village hall, below the clock that has stood always at 1 minute past 10, hangs a small dusty painting of a horse. He stands a splendid red bay with a remarkable white cross emblazoned on his forehead and with 4 perfectly matched white socks. He looks wistfully out of the picture, his ears pricked forward, his head turned as if he has just noticed us standing there. To many who glance up at it casually, as they might do when the hall is opened up for parish meetings, for harvest suppers or evening socials, it is merely a tarnished old oil painting of some unknown horse by a competent but anonymous artist. To them the picture is so familiar that it commands little attention. But those who look more closely will see written in fading black copperplate writing across the bottom of the bronze frame, Joey, painted by Captain James Nichols, autumn 1914. Some in the village, only a very few now and fewer as each year goes by, remember Joey as he was. His story is written and played so that neither he nor those who knew him, nor the war they lived and died in, will be forgotten. But I don't want to end on a gloomy note. We thought we'd end on a kind of a cheery note, and here's what we're going to do. I know you've been sitting there sometimes during the singing, wishing you could join in. So my second name is Gareth Malone. I am 1,000 people singing one of our songs, and here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask the songman to come forward and get us going with a rendering of Rolling Home, which they do really quite well. But here's the good thing, I want you people to join in the choruses and loudly. What's that? Yes. Let's come back later. Don't pinch it. Both arms for conducting, you see. Are you ready? You ready? Over to you, Maestro.
Round goes the wheel of fortune. Don't be afraid to ride. There's a land of milk and honey